Okay. Good evening. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. I hope all of you managed to have some, at least some, wonderful moments of intimacy with things in your experience. And I would encourage you to continue this practice indefinitely. The desire to look at a thing, abandoning your preconceptions about it, with a desire to see the more of what is there than what you're seeing, is what? It's an invitation to God to reveal Himself to you as what He is being right there. There can be nothing else right there but the current, living, active movement of God called creation. And so no matter what you're looking at, there is ultimate meaning with a capital M there to be experienced. It would be meaningless for a thing to have meaning that you were unconscious of. The point is for the meaning to be experienced. It is the purpose of being, a verb, it is the purpose of being to be experienced. And so, whatever it is you are looking at is there for the purpose of your experiencing what it means. There is nothing happenstance about it being there. It is never meaningless for you. And it's the fulfillment of your being for you to be experiencing its meaning. So, continue this practice, knowing that at the bottom line, the purpose of the practice is a conscious opening up to the presence of God and an experience of God right there. It is an easy way to let God in. And I'll tell you this, the practice you get from looking at a salt shaker or a piece of paper or whatever it might be gives you practice in an uncharged situation at seeing God there, so that it can become familiar to you and somewhat natural to you, thereby allowing you, when you are in a charged situation or a difficult situation with a brother or a sister, to shift gears, not go into automatic and run by your mind all the definitions you have created about that brother or sister, and successfully desire to see the more of what is there than what your brother is seeing of himself, and beyond what your current definitions are about that brother, inviting in the experience of God right there, so that receiving the experience makes it possible for you to extend the experience. Instead of extending reactions based on your definition of their behavior, your definition of them, and your current definition of yourself, which says, I can't be tolerant of so-and-so's behavior, which keeps you both locked in to the box. So this is a valuable practice, one that will provide you with the experience necessary to be with your brothers and sisters from a new place and in a new way, whether you do it well in the beginning or not. We're going to be reading about idols tonight. We were talking about it a bit last week. And I would like to visit one of the commandments. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images, or, and this or is the big thing, or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, the earth beneath, or the waters under the earth. What does that mean? Make unto thee a likeness of anything. Well, it's very simple. The minute you give a definition to anything, you have created a likeness. You have taken something actual of the kingdom of heaven, and you have created a likeness. It is as though you have, in computer language, copied something. You have made a copy, and you haven't done anything with it yet. It's in the RAM memory. It's there. But it's not on the screen yet. And so you look at a thing and you make a copy of it. And then you say, okay, this definition that I am making up about this copy is what that is. In computer language, you would give it a new file name. And then you work with the file from then on. You work with the copy. You've made an image, a likeness of something real. And then given it a definition, and then given it preference to the real thing. Now you have an idol. And all of your idols are parts of the kingdom of heaven which you have given new file names to, new definitions to. There's nothing else for you to work with. And then what do? By virtue of giving your attention and commitment to them, you have begun to serve them. They are the new presence of God. And to hell with the real presence of God. And so now you are bowing down to and serving the idols you have made. You don't just do it with objects out there, you do it with yourself too. And you did the very first step there of when you said, Father, I'd rather see it my way. I'd rather see things on my own. Well, there is no such thing as on my own. It's just an imaginative idea. But you said, with all seriousness, I'd rather see it on my own. And then you proceeded to think you did it. Now, you had a definition of yourself as something different from what you are. You had a definition of yourself that said, I am capable of doing something on my own. I am an independent entity, a causative presence. I can make things on my own, independent of anything else. And so you became your first idol, your definition of yourself. Your act of independence became your first idol. And then you created everything that you saw to serve your will, to serve you. But the interesting thing is that once you did that, you then had to begin to serve the definitions you gave, because those are the only things that can seem to give you support for this imaginary, independent position that you now have conceived that you occupy and are. And so you're dependent upon your creations to define you. And you end up serving them. And you must protect them because they protect you in this imaginary false position. So, what are we doing when we're taking a few moments during the day, having intimacy with anything in your presence? We're in the act of undoing the idolization of the definitions you've given, and thereby you are weakening your so-called authority, your so-called capacity to create something by yourself. And you're undoing the isolation that you found yourself in, but that you were surprised to find yourself in when you said, I want a divorce, Father. So do this. It's a pleasure to do it. You can do it lightly. And it is one very practical way to use your will to let your source back in. To use your will to join with the Father, who, by virtue of his fatherhood, gives you the clear experience of your identity as his offspring, as his presence rendered visible, tangible, and experienceable. Let's go to the book. Just reviewing for a moment. To believe a son of God is sick, meaning one of your brothers, is to worship the same idol he does. God created love, not idolatry. All forms of idolatry all likenesses of anything in the heavens above, the earth beneath, or the waters under the earth, are caricatures of what? Creation itself, taught by sick minds, which are too divided to know that creation shares power and never usurps it. Okay, continuing. A sick God must be an idol, made in the image of what its maker thinks he is. You see? And that is exactly what the ego does perceive in a son of God. A sick God, self-created, self-sufficient, very vicious, and very vulnerable. You say, well, I don't think of myself that way. Of course you do. You try very hard to be self-sufficient. You think you are self-created. You think that your world is your definition of reality, what you have determined. Each person has his own experience of reality. Of course you don't say that you're very vicious, but you're not kind. Because when you believe that you are vulnerable, you attempt to protect yourself, and your protection is always some form of defense. What? Against someone. Against whatever would undermine your security. It's not love. And so, to one degree or another, it is a form of viciousness. It is a form of attack. And of course, you do see yourselves as very vulnerable. That's the reason that you attack. That is the reason you engage in self-defense. That's the reason you try to be a success, so you won't have to put up with being vulnerable. You try to be a success because you have forgotten that you are the fullness of God already, right now, right there where you are. Continuing, is this the idol you would worship? Is this the image, the likeness you would be vigilant to save? Look calmly at the logical conclusion of the ego's thought system and judge whether its offering is really what you want, for this is what it offers you. Again, what does it offer you? It offers you the idea that you are self-created, self-sufficient, very vicious, and very vulnerable. That's the only thing it can offer you. And the only reason it can seem to successfully offer it to you is because you have forgotten who you are. Judge whether its offering is really what you want, for this is what it offers you. To obtain this, you are willing to attack the divinity of your brothers and thus lose sight of yours. You see, you get to keep what you give. It's just the way it works. If you attack the divinity of your brothers, that's what you get to keep. And thus you lose sight of yours. You see, to have a moment of intimacy with a fingernail file or a rock is actually an invitation to an experience of what a thing is, so that you can acknowledge it for what it is and be able to keep it as yours. Because it's a part of learning about what you are. Just a simple little practice. But it will have monumental results. Totally transforming results. You will not be able to experience what that thing is without having a brand new experience of yourself. An enlightened experience of yourself. Again, to obtain this, you are willing to attack the divinity of your brothers and thus lose sight of yours. And you are willing to keep it hidden and to protect this idol, which you think will save you from the dangers which the idol itself stands for, but which do not exist. You are willing to keep the truth about you and the truth about everything hidden. In order to protect the definition you have made about everything. And you think that by keeping the truth hidden, it will save you from the dangers which the idol itself stands for. Your idols stand for a defense against the punishment you are afraid you will be met with if you let the truth that you've been denying register with you. Because after all, you have been denying God. When all you've been denying momentarily is your capacity to experience who and what you are. The idol apparently protects you from the truth that will punish you. But there is no such truth there. Knowing the truth will set you free. Now, there are no idolaters in the kingdom. But there is great appreciation from every soul which God created because of the calm knowledge that each one is part of Him. Well, what on earth can that mean? It can only mean that although you can easily identify yourself as an idolater, you can't possibly be an idolater, because there are no idolaters in the kingdom. What there is great appreciation for every soul which God created because of the calm knowledge that each one is part of Him, God. That's what you know. You do know it. The knowing is there in you. God's Son knows no idols, but He does know the Father. You do know the Father. You don't know any idols, because the idols are purely fictitious. At the moment, you don't think they're fictitious. You think they're valid, you think they're real, and you also think that they are essential to your maintaining a sense of sanity and stability. So-and-so is behaving very badly, in very destructive and unpleasant ways. And you say, because so-and-so is behaving this way, I need to be very careful around him or her. I recognize the kind of person he or she is, and I recognize that he or she is caught in his or her own misperceptions. It's very clear to me. And as long as they are caught, and they are going to behave this way in an undependable way, in a critical way, in an unpleasant way, and even possibly in ways that are dangerous to my well-being. Well, there is your idol. There is your definition. There is the likeness you have created in your mind in place of what that one really is. And if there's nothing to jog your memory, you will commit to that and you will engage in an endless conflict, an endless attempt to overcome how you are seeing them, except that you say, that's the way they are. And that does not promote healing. That does not promote correction. Somebody has to jog your memory enough to cause you to stop, to hesitate, right in the circumstance. And remember that what is called for is at the least a moment of intimacy with the more of what is there than the definition you have made up, and the more that is there than the definition your brother or sister has made up about himself or herself. That is the only thing that will allow a response to come forth, that will heal, that will transform, that will not call forth more and more vicious defense. And that's how you become the presence of love, that really is an extension, a gift that you get to keep, but which also blesses. Breaks down the density of the box that you're caught in, that they're caught in. And that's the only thing that will do it. So the fact is that in spite of what you might think, there are no idolaters in the kingdom, and therefore you are not an idolater, even though you have made up idols, and even though you think you've made commitment to them. It was an act of emptiness in which nothing happened. And therefore you are still not idolaters. You might be confused, but you haven't become the ungodlike thing that you think you have become. There are no idolaters in the kingdom, but there is great appreciation for every soul which God created because of the calm knowledge that each one is part of Him.